Yeah, hello, this is the final part. And here that relate to the updating news to the end of shocking so far. And this is now the main update of political situation right now. I think I didn't see this new map that they just released here, but here it is. So, yep. STC, so this is still ongoing conflict there at the end of it is. Notice at the end of this main offensive at the end of the start of that back on December 2nd, they take up all the territories and they end up putting across the velvet line there, because they end up the line and it reached the British and Ottoman Empire. They end up did technically split up the north and the south, which is giving on the south side of the violet line there, and then they're talking about it anyway. Yeah, so part of Operation Promising Future, this in the end of allowed STC to open up a huge offensive at the end of, to allow to the end of some way it is. This new map that I've released recently is rather than looks like right now, and yeah, I kind of say the North East has been pushed all the way back to this little coastline right here, the little coastline which the government still owns, which is technically across the violet line. The end of the sea already, which is kind of makes sense. We have found out. Yeah, it's kind of. Yeah, I found out this offensive is kind of bloodless. So bloodless and it's just the Saudi Yemen main forces, the Saudi main forces, and just technically just hand over all the territories to STC without having a way to fight. So you just wonder, what's all this 16 killed is what they relate to? Well, technically, this is not from the international backed government forces, and they got the 16 kills from. Instead, the 16 kills is from the native Yemeni forces at the end of loyal to Saudi Arabia, that they don't want to transport right over the STC control because they knew it's going to cause to screw them over. They'll literally find the natives and they'll literally just keep multiple troops getting killed from the native fighters. So this kind of makes sense. So technically, they're literally facing against the tribesmen and make native Yemeni tribes, and they got 16 dead because they're from the fight against the tribes. The main government only got 6 killed, and I think this reason is it's just the 6 killed, so I think it's caused by, like I said, that they end up the STC controlled elite forces, so they end up being somehow got involved with this, and it just makes sense. So not be surprised. Yeah, they took over. So yeah, that's so far. Yeah, it has been a long road for them to see the end of the way it is. Yes, he took all the Haramandis, and this picture that shows it all that they're raising their own flag. Yeah, so they read them as you please. At the end of this it's the end of the way it is, but this is here's a little background there that the end of how this even happened. Anyway, so for sure. Here's a Marab government, and the end of the easier to read. Here it is, so read it as you please. Here's some raw. And yes, even SCC took over this island here, which is technically owned by used to be owned by the Yemeni National Assistance, which is kind of give them this island for free. So the end of it's kind of lucky for them. The reaction wasn't in swift. I think the reason is not only had to take over those towns, it needs to also take over 80% of Yemeni government's oil supply, which means, yeah, it's so So they end up crucial to take over that because the more oil they get, the more stronger the military is going to be. Which so yeah, it's kind of lucky for that anyway. This is also part of the end of the independence plan. At the end of anyway, but I might tell you more in depth later in this podcast video that will come later on. Anyway, so yeah, I found out Saudi Arabia is just withdraw everything without having a shot fired. It's just withdrawal after withdrawal after withdrawal. Most of the infighting after the SCC fought through is mostly the native Yemeni forces, aka the tribes, and they just do not want to transition right over, which they had no choice in the fight. So, obviously, so yeah, there's a fun for sure, and they're planning to the end of yeah. So obviously the end of compared to looking at it right now. So yeah, so here's part one. There, the part two is gonna be aired on my podcast site. That'll talk about what's the plan, and it's gonna be the consequences and otherwise that relate to this. So stay tuned for that. So I'll see you in the podcast video, and I finally am out of here on this one.